Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, merry by name, merry by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. And this week, as every week, I very much hope my guest and I can make your day merry, because I have the pleasure of being joined by AjentVee. V, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Wow, that was hilarious. You're just merry in general. I love that. Honestly, that's the vibe. That's what we need more. We need more of on YouTube. If you want me to be real.
Hey.
Yeah. I'm V. I'm a content creator, a streamer on Twitch. Part-time YouTuber, but hopefully full-time soon. Haha. Yeah, I do primarily a lot of Pokemon stuff. Casually delve into some other, maybe some farming sims. A lot of people know me for Animal Crossing and that kind of stuff, but it's mostly Pokemon in this household. But yeah, I love Pokemon a lot, and I've kind of made it my job, and I think that's pretty great.
The backdrop behind you certainly attests to that fact.
Oh, literally, this is incredible. Thank you. Isn't that bad yourself?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. The question of a backdrop is an interesting one, isn't it, for a content creator? But it's an ever-evolving question. And yeah, absolutely. You've made your passion your job, and that is always wonderful to hear. I was saying to V just before we started recording that I think I first came across V with a pinned post that she had on her Twitter, now her X, of a compilation of a shiny badge quest that she was doing in the Generation 4 remakes, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. And it was just such an inspiring video to see. Shiny hunting is not for the faint-hearted. They're incredibly rare shiny Pokemon. They're alternately coloured versions of certain species of Pokemon. And that you went through all that experience together with your community, and then you have that to show for it at the end. I mean, a whale of a time.
It was honestly incredible, and I think my favorite part from that shiny badge quest is the fact that a lot of my community not only was a part of it, but a lot of people drew fan art of some of the Pokemon. These shiny hunts were way too long, especially considering that they're full odds. You have to be like a little crazy to get into shiny hunting, but I just wanted to take on the Sinnoh region in like a brand new way, and it was pretty darn cool to see people actually draw artwork of the shiny Pokemon that I was looking for, because we made lore just from like talking about these shinies and stuff like that. So it was very, very cool. I still have them saved on my hard drive and stuff like that. It's incredible. It's great stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can attest it certainly was great stuff, and I'm sure we'll be getting far more into all of your Pokemon adventures over the course of this episode. So why don't we get into it? Let's dive straight into getting to know you a little bit better and the 6 Pokemon that you've handpicked for your dream team. And I believe what we're starting with today, V, is appropriately your childhood.
Absolutely. In case people don't know on the internet, according to internet standards, I'm very old. I'm an ancient human for the internet standards. But yeah, my first games were my first game was Pokemon Red. For childhood sakes, I guess, it's for explanation's sake, I guess, my parents were very, very video game heavy, especially in their younger years. My mother had me when she was, I think, in her early 20s and stuff like that. So they were very much into NES, old school Legend of Zelda, like the original, like they played all these kinds of games. And so they kind of like brought down their consoles onto me. So it's like they gave me their Nintendo 64, and that's when I played like Pokemon Stadium and Ocarina of Time and things like that. But when the Game Boy came out, yeah, that's when I was like sucked in to like the Pokemon verse and stuff like that. I absolutely love Gen 1, and then I pretty sure I bought every game ever since, except for Gold and Silver. That's a whole weird thing. We had gotten Pokemon Stadium, and then when Pokemon Crystal came out, I distinctly remember that this was such a important game to me, because that was the first time you can actually choose your gender. You start the game in Pokemon Crystal. Are you a boy or are you a girl? my mind was blown. I was like, you could be a girl and like Pokemon? Oh my gosh. I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever. So yeah, Chris from Pokemon Crystal, I think that's her name. If you Google it, she's like the best. It's like the whole shebang. She's pretty awesome. Yeah, that was like some of my first experiences with Pokemon in general, and I've just bought like every game ever since. Another childhood memory of mine is my mother on my birthday, because Pokemon Emerald came out in the US on May 1st, which is my birthday. And my parents picked me up from school, and they had like a little gift bag, and it was Pokemon Emerald with the strategy guide. And that's like a core memory. I will never forget that moment. So it's good stuff. And it's like I play Pokemon Coliseum. The list can go on. Like I just bought Pokemon games as they went along, as I got older. And it left a pretty good impression on me, in case you haven't seen, but and from my content and stuff like that. So yeah, from very much early childhood, I would probably say like 5 years old, I was like consuming all things Pokemon. So yeah, it was good stuff.
It's not often that people could say that it was their parents who got them into games and
Absolutely.
Pokemon. And it's fantastic to hear that your parents did, that was infusing the household. What would you say? Do you know what your parents' favorite video game would have been?
Oh gosh, I mean, they are a big fans of Zelda, which, by the way, Echoes of Wisdom is coming out at the time of this recording. And when I told them that you can actually play as Zelda, minds were blown. They were like, "What?" They don't play video games as much anymore. They're a lot older, but they're like, "Whoa, that's a big deal," stuff like that. But there's a very obscure game that actually you can play on the Nintendo Switch Online store on the NES, and it's called oh my gosh, nope, it's escaping me. There it is. It's called The Adventures of Lolo. That's what it's called. And it's like a puzzle game. You just have to like climb up the tower and like solve puzzles along the way. If you haven't played The Adventures of Lolo, very old school but very influential game. I would highly recommend it. I would say that's their favorite. It's to the point where in those times, if you got a game over, there would be like passwords and stuff for each level. So in case you lost and had to go back to the beginning, you could just input a password and get back to where you came from, right? My parents purposely lost in every single level, and just to write down the passwords for each level. And they still have that paper to this day in the basement somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just a paper of like all the passwords for every level in The Adventures of Lolo. Crazy stuff. But yeah, I would say that's their favorite. They're big NES nerds, but not as much gamers now.
That is the gamer way. Deliberately losing in order to compile a sheet so you have all the passwords on it. That's
This was before internet times, so
exactly. No, they were doing a fantastic service. And yeah, that does sound like an absolutely incredible memory. Getting into the car after school, there's a gift bag waiting for you on your birthday, and Pokemon Emerald with the strategy guide. Absolutely phenomenal. Well, as you say, yeah, that is the perfect start to tee up how things have gone since then. And speaking of teeing up, it's now time to tee you up to tell us what the first Pokemon is on your dream team. So, as a reminder, the aim here is not for V to build the most competitively viable team in any way. It's just the Pokemon that are the most special to V, and V can define that for herself in whichever way she wants. I have no idea what they are. We decided on these in advance. So let's find out together. V, who's the first Pokemon on your team?
So this is going to be shocking to you. Haha, shocking. It will get there. But just to preface, my Pokemon, or the Pokemon that I chose, are not competitively viable, probably except for this one, maybe, which is Electrode. Electrode is my first choice. I think Electrode is very, very cool. I love Pokemon that just give off a lot of confidence. So that smile on Electrode is like my favorite thing of all time. It's like, he's just like, yeah, I'm here to mess things up. I know what I do. I explode. Do you know what I do? It's like one of those kinds of situations. But yeah, I would assume, I guess Electrode would make sense for me because I was talking about my childhood. First gen is the first game that I played. Electrode is a Gen 1 Pokemon, and I've loved plenty of Gen 1 Pokemon over the years. But for some reason, Electrode just really stood out to me. And actually, in Legends Arceus, when Hisuian Voltorb was announced, lost my whole mind. It was so incredible. Like I was like, Electrode is getting love. Let's go. And then and I didn't love Voltorb as much until the Hisuian Electrode, but I digress. Yeah, I really love Electrode Cantonian. Sorry if you want me to be specific on it, but it's just a Pokemon that gives off a lot of gusto and confidence, and that's kind of what I want to like let out from my content and things like that. Yeah,
I love that. I love when you identify with the vibe of a Pokemon. The fact that you aspire for your content to have that Electrode flavor to it. You know, I think it's a nice sort of shorthand for an image to have in mind in terms of what you want to put out into the world. So, would you say that Electrode was your first favorite Pokemon?
No,
Okay.
but we will get that. We will get there in a further. That's spoilers. We can't get there yet.
No, absolutely not.
But I think Electrode made sense because it was just Gen 1, and I put each Pokemon specifically to the 6 topics, so hopefully it like lines up correctly. So yeah.
Very nice. I'm intrigued.
Heck
It's really interesting as well with Hisuian Voltorb and Hisuian Electrode. They sort of, in a way, flip the emotions. Hisuian Voltorb is the happier one, and Hisuian Electrode is the grumpier one. Whereas the reverse is true for the Cantonian.
The other way around, which is why actually in Legends Arceus I prefer Hisuian Voltorb over Electrode. I think it's just because I love the smiles, Yeah. There's like a particular short that comes to mind that Pokemon made with Hisuian Electrode, with Hisuian Voltorb, excuse me. And it's like the cutest thing, and I'm just like, you are the greatest Pokemon ever. It's so cute. I love it. It's great.
I saw that Hisuian Voltorb plush behind you on your shelf there. Yes. Don't think I didn't.
Oh my gosh, there it is. I can show. You know what? Can the people see?
I'm not sure they can. Go and show us. Go and show us.
Let's change this. Real quick. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
My little favorite guy. This is literally one of my favorite gamers right here. Yay.
Such a supportive little guy as well, just to watch over you and your endeavors. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
So then, it is Cantonian Electrode that joins your dream team. And before we fill out the rest of your dream team, first of all, if you're enjoying this chat with V, please do like and subscribe. All those things do go a massively long way. It'd be hugely helpful if you could. I know all content creators say this, but they really do. But now, we're going from there into your first experiences with YouTube and PokeTubers.
Okay. So first experiences with YouTube, again, this was like, I would say like middle school for me and stuff like that. If you want to get to like the really old school times, I think of like Annoying Orange and like Charlie the Unicorn and like all that kind of stuff. A lot of Charlie's. Charlie bit my finger, like all that. What does it mean? Anyway, yeah, so it started with that kind of stuff, and I never thought I would see like actual like Let's Plays. It was usually just like memes, like the keyboard cat, Nyan cat, all that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that I would watch, and then further along as YouTube started growing, then I started watching people who would actually do Let's Plays, and what I learned was Nuzlockes of Pokemon and stuff, which was really incredible to see. And I'm like, wow, people can actually make content off of this kinds of stuff. But yeah, these people. Oh, and I think of GlitchxCity, which it's how it's come. How the story has come full circle. We'll get to. But yeah, like I think about all these YouTubers, and I'm like, wow, you can actually make content like with Pokemon and with things that you like, which is complete 180 to what I would normally watch, which is just like memes and like people making like silly jokes and stuff like that. I would say those were my first starts, and then ever since then I just became really excited about like Let's Plays and stuff like that. If you think about like old school YouTube me, I would say some of the stuff that's unlisted now at this point. I used to make Let's Plays of Undertale. Undertale was like a really, like, that game is pretty important to me, and I made like first impressions, like no spoilers, just going through the game and stuff like that, and that was like one of my first starts. The videos that really helped me to blow up, I suppose, was during Sun and Moon. When the Sun and Moon trailers were coming out, like the game was like, they were just revealing new Pokemon and things like that. And yeah, I think my reaction to Incine-roaring specifically, when they showed the evolutions for all the starters, that was a video that got me like, I would probably say like 30,000 views. That was like my first video that really, I was like, whoa, what is going on? This could actually like be something. Pretty much a lot of my Sun and Moon reactions were kind of like that. But yeah, I did a lot of reactionary content aside from the Let's Plays and things like that. Obviously, YouTube has changed a lot significantly since then, and I'm trying to adjust to that stuff. But yeah.
First of all, it was also Glitch who talked about Charlie Bit My Finger in her episode. So, I mean, this is
no way! Oh my
thing.
Gosh! Heck yeah! That's awesome.
Then you mentioned Charlie the Unicorn as well. As someone with the name Charlie, yes, going through school at that time, yeah, everyone was coming up to me and quoting those.
Were they
videos,
memeing you? Yeah.
I mean, of course they were. Of course they were. It's entirely understandable. When you say Let's Plays, you mean, just for the benefit of anyone who's not so familiar, you mean just playing through the game.
Yeah, quite literally. And I'm talking about because YouTube has upgraded a lot since then. A lot of people like chop out all of the fluff in the editing. No, they literally unedited 30-minute videos. Usually the first episode of every Let's Play was, you know, May or Brendan getting out of the truck, talking to mom, getting your starter, doing all of that, and then them just talking about what's going on in their lives as they're walking through the routes and stuff like that. Obviously, that's not a thing nowadays because you gotta keep the attention. You gotta keep the attention of all the viewers and things like that. But Let's Plays were a different beast back then. I'm surprised I watched that much hours of content. Now I think about it, because like these playthroughs would be like, I would say like 30-40 hours because they just don't edit stuff.
The Incine-roaring video in particular.
Yeah.
Can you reveal what your reaction was?
Oh, it was so. I was a big fan of Litten and Torracat. So obviously all the other starters were great too, but those were like, I was like, I already know what I'm choosing. I'm choosing Litten as my starter. So when here's this video that comes out, I get to recording right away and I'm like, okay, what is it going to look like? And I think I was more shocked at the fact that it was Fire Dark versus firefighting, because we had gotten like so many firefightings in the past. So when it was Fire Dark, I was like, wow. I was like, I don't know. That was a thing that truly excited me about Incine-roaring. Nowadays, it's funny because I don't think I like Incine-roaring as much anymore. But like, I'm more of a fan of the little guys. So like Torracat, I think I probably like more than Incine-roaring, but I think that's just aesthetic. So yeah. It was a very, it was like elation.
Okay, well, from your delight about Incine-roaring, let's move on to the second Pokemon who's going to be joining your dream team. So who's going to be there alongside Electric?
And it is not Incine-roaring.
Okay.
Actually, so I said that every Pokemon was going to be, you know, somewhat related to my topics, but this one actually isn't. The second Pokemon is Aipom. And it's another Pokemon that I have a plush of somewhere. I'm not going to go look for it now. But Aipom was one of the Pokemon also, I would say, that would align with the childhood days. The third Pokemon movie in particular is what I think about a lot, especially with the movie with Entei. Sorry if you guys aren't familiar. But there's a trainer in the beginning of the movie where... has an Aipom and is just perched on the shoulder, and I thought that was like the coolest thing. And my thought process is only Pikachu's supposed to be on the shoulder, you know, like it's Ash and Pikachu, right? Only Pikachu's supposed to be up on there, and then here's this girl, again, girl representation, let's go, with an Aipom, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be my entire personality. I was just like so yeah, Aipom has been my favorite Pokemon for a very long time. Actually recently changed, but obviously we'll get there to another time. But yeah, I love that Pokemon a lot.
I think it's impossible not to fall for Apom's cheeky grin. It just looks delighted all the time, and I can't help but smile whenever I look at Apom. A really fantastic choice.
Two Pokemon that smile.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's a little theme coming out here. If you want to hear someone wax lyrical about the third Pokemon film, you should watch the episode I did with Simon van der Bucht, a Pokemon trainer from the Belgian community who actually had Entei on his own dream team because of how much that third film he loves.
It's a good one.
It's absolutely. It's really left a mark on a lot of people. So Apom joins the team as well. So that is. Have you been inspired by that third Pokemon film to use Apom on a playthrough of a game that you've done?
Actually, no. However, in Pokemon Legends Arceus, there is a area in the Cobalt Coastlands called Apom Hill, and that was probably the greatest day of my life when I discovered that area. So, I would say I don't think I've ever used Apom in a playthrough, but I never thought of Apom as a battler. It would have just been in my party, just like, passively getting EXP from all the other Pokemon and stuff like that. But I just imagine it to be like a pet Pokemon. When Professor Oak says Pokemon are sometimes used as pets, that's what I imagine Apom would be. Not a battler, just a hugger, I guess.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah. Well, Apom joins the team alongside Electrode, and let's go from there onto your work life and the road leading to content creation.
Yeah, so those Sun and Moon reactions that I did, that was also being recorded while I was working. In terms of my work background, without obviously going too much into it, I did have a Disney background. I worked with Disney. That was my first job. Fun. But it was more on the retail side. I didn't work in like Disneyland or anything like that. I worked in a retail store. In the heart of Times Square, mind you. So that was a lot for an 18, 19-year-old girl to deal with. Very hectic, but it did humble me. I will say it did humble me in terms of the retail life, and just, if you pick up that shirt in the store, maybe just fold it back, and just put it back where you found it. But I used to do a lot of my content creation on the side, like honestly, like working at Disney, and then after Disney I worked at a cancer hospital as a concierge, just like I guess interacting and like making sure that families and patients get to their appointments and things like that. Oh, you got to go to this elevator and go over here and blah blah. So but it was both really intense experiences, so with Disney retail being like Disney's one of the biggest companies ever, and working in Times Square, to going to a cancer hospital and dealing with the difficulties of cancer and all of that kind of stuff, hearing what the families have to go through and stuff like that. It's a lot for someone in late teens, early 20s to like deal with, I guess. And YouTube would help me to like, I would come home and I'm like, oh great, I can finally, record, and I can finally stream, because I was doing Twitch at the time and stuff as well. It was a very interesting, I don't know how I would explain it, but it's just an interesting like intertwining with those two. Like I felt like I was Spider-Man, where it's like, or like Clark Kent and Superman, where it's like one life I'm doing this and then the other life I'm doing a completely different thing. So content creation actually made me a lot more happier, obviously, just from the stresses of those two jobs. And so I really, really wanted to pursue that. And just obviously throughout the years, obviously I got Twitch partner and stuff like that off of the shiny hunts that I did. I took shiny hunting very seriously in 2018 when Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, and for some reason those streams racked up a lot of views. And I can also think of like the pandemic as well. When the pandemic happened, a lot of people tuned into my streams because Animal Crossing, I did a lot of streams on that. And it was nice to go from the work life to content creation. But yeah, it was pretty stressful times with work and dealing with content creation at the same time. Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, I was going to say, hats off to you for, after such long and busy days at work, coming home and then saying, right, I'm going to record a video, and not just sort of saying, I'm just going to watch YouTube, you know, I'm just going to chill out. I mean, that's, as you say, must have been an exhausting time. How long would that have been that, you know, you were doing those jobs and then coming home and then making videos? Roughly how long?
I wouldn't. It's tough to say because honestly, those times were pretty spotty. Honestly, like I had really long work days, so everything just like blends together at this point. When I used to work at Disney, I used to work the night shift, and in Times Square, it's the city that never sleeps, right?
Yeah.
So my shift would end at 1 a.m. And so I would get home at like 2 a.m. and whatever. And then on top of that, I had college at the time, but I am a college dropout. So it just wasn't for me. So that was a thing. And then with the job at the hospital as a concierge, that was all day too. It was usually like 12 to 8, I would assume, something like that. So I would spend a lot of my mornings doing my recordings on YouTube. And then at nighttime, I'm like, all right, guys, time to stream you know, Life is Strange, or like time to stream this game or whatever, blah blah blah. So yeah, it was very, very long days. I started the Disney job when I was 18, and I think I left the hospital job probably, I think 2018. Yeah, so it was from, so I would say 7 years. That's 7 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oof. Just doing a whole bunch of that.
That is
stressful stuff, but I think worth it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I can see, yeah, your experience in retail certainly does sound like a humbling one. And then the job you're doing at the hospital too, psychologically and emotionally incredibly draining, I'm sure. And
yeah,
hats off to you for doing such an important job. I'm sure that you brighten many people's days doing that.
That's how I felt. Like I wasn't necessarily in medicine, but the fact that the families would talk to me and, you know, they would just talk about anything. I hope I was helpful with, you know, their struggles and things like that. But in terms of like going back home and like coming home to stream, like it was like a palate cleanser, if that makes sense. You know, it felt good to like, you know, and then it's like after I'm done with stream, I'm like, oh, I feel better. Okay. You know, and then I go to bed and do it all again the next day.
I find it amazing that when you're streaming, obviously you have to be on, you know, it's not just in your own space. And so again, yeah, just the amount of energy that was required and you were sustaining that for 7 years is just, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you seem to have a good balance these days. And now it's time to move on to the third Pokemon that's going to be joining your dream team alongside Electrode and Apom.
Sure. Again, I don't think we're going to get any more competitive than Electrode, so you're not expecting anything too crazy from me. You're not going to get a Garchomp or anything like that. But my third Pokemon actually is Spoink. Which is a very unique one, and I do have a plushie of it somewhere. But Spoink is actually, back in the early Pokemon YouTubing days, everyone would have mascots, Pokemon mascots, and I kind of wanted to have one too when I first started like content creation and things like that. I don't even know where Spoink even came from, if you want me to be honest, but that was the one that I chose. Spoink, I don't know, he's just a silly guy. There's nothing much I can really say. He's just quite literally a silly fella. And he's been my mascot. Well, he's not my mascot anymore because I don't think people do that stuff anymore. But Spoink does have a special place in my heart from the early YouTube days. And I mean, it's still one of my emotes to this day. It's just a cute Pokemon. That's all I can really say, if you want me to be honest.
Definitely a cute Pokemon. And I mean, you say that you couldn't really say where the idea for Spoink came from in terms of choosing it as your mascot, but also it's still, I think even when people assume that, it still says a lot. It's just the Pokemon we naturally gravitate towards, and I think Spoink is very fitting for you. It's friendly, wants people to have a good time, and I think it's a really fantastic choice. Very,
just a bouncy
very cute
guy.
Pokemon. Yeah, exactly. Spoink. What are your thoughts on Grumpig? Its evolution.
I do like Grumpig. I actually use, when you were talking about if I use Apom, I actually used a Grumpig when I played through X and Y for the first time, which was very cool. Like Spoink was kind of like in the early routes, I think before the second badge. And yeah, I ended up bringing it all the way, and Grumpig was kind of like the mascot of the team. I don't know, Grumpig was kind of like the leader of the group. Wasn't that all that strong, but it's still, you know, it had its place in the team. So I was lucky enough to use it, and I think it's great. It's a good one.
Absolutely. Well, I'm loving how this team is shaping up so far. I mean, Spoink doesn't overtly have as much of a smile as Electrode and Aphon, but it manifests that sort of energy, I would say.
Yeah.
And we've got an electric type, a normal type, and a psychic type so far on your team. We'll see how that continues to develop. But we're going from there. We're bouncing over on our little curly spring pigtails like Spoink has over to, moving across the country for love.
Yes, it was. So this is probably one of the moments of my life, if you want me to be truthful. So obviously I had the hospital job, which was very, very stressful and stuff like that. And that's when, so obviously being online at night and stuff like that, I ended up playing a game called Overwatch a lot. Overwatch was a game that was like really popular in like 2017, 2018. So I played a lot of that in my downtime. And actually, that's how GlitchxCity and I have met. And we were just, initially it was just fun. We were just like playing Overwatch games and just chatting about stuff. And eventually we met officially at a PAX East, which is set in Boston. It's a convention for video games and stuff like that. And that's when we met in person. And then, you know, it just escalated from there. You know, the love grew and stuff like that. In case you guys didn't know, yeah, that's kind of like, it's one of the things that I'm probably most notable for is both of ours relationship, because I kind of plastered online, but I digress. But yeah, we had met in person, and then we were doing long distance for a very long time. As well, not a very long time. I would probably just say a year, which in the grand scheme of things is kind of long without seeing another person. But I used to live in New York, and she was living in California at the time. And she saw that I was very like stressed out about like my job and stuff like that. And one day out of the blue, she was just like, well, you clearly want to do content creation. Why don't you just move over here so you can focus on that instead of, you know, trying to juggle both. And she's like, I'll take care of you. You know, we'll just see how this goes. And it was just, she's one of those that will just jump the gun. I'm very like, is it overthinking? I don't know, but that's a pretty massive ask, right? Especially from someone who was born and raised in one specific city, and you just want me to like drop everything and move across the country. She's like, yeah. And I was like, wow, sure, let's try it. It wasn't like an unsure yes, but I took the time to think about it, and I eventually moved. And that was arguably probably one of the best decisions that we made, especially considering the future events. Because if we were still long distance during the pandemic, I don't know how this would have worked out. So I think moving to stay with her really helped with just my growth as a person in general. And it really helped my content grow and things like that. So obviously everyone at my job was like pretty understanding. A lot of people come and go in those kinds of jobs. So, and my parents weren't too thrilled about it, but then they saw my success with content creation and how she was taking care of me if I was ever in a rut. So they were just like, you know, it's working for you. So, yeah. And then we ended up, you know, we were dating. Now we're married now. So that's my story on that. So yeah.
Wow, phenomenal. Yeah, Glitch mentioned this briefly in the episode that we recorded. Do check that out on the channel if you haven't already. It is sometimes life just has a way of making exactly the right decisions for us. I mean, as you say, you had no idea the pandemic was on the horizon.
No.
And you just happened to move in together, and obviously the timing couldn't have been more appropriate.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely phenomenal story.
You know, I was watching Pokemon YouTubers, and they used a lot of her music, so I was definitely a fan of her music. And it's funny because a lot of people, which is good advice, they usually say don't date your fans. That's usually the advice that's given when it comes to big creators and stuff like that. But I was just like, wow, I'm such a big fan of your stuff. I didn't listen to her stuff that often back then. But yeah, when we first started like becoming a thing, that's when I really hankered down and like started listening to like all of her stuff. And sometimes she would bash me for it. Like some of her mixes, she was making content since probably 2011. And so like, okay, I haven't heard a song in like 2013 that you made. She's like, what do you mean you haven't listened to this? Listen to it right now. And I'm like, okay, you know, stuff like that. But it was good stuff. And now ever since 2018, I've been listening to every single one of her remixes. And she even comes to me for a casual ear because she listens to her stuff all the time. So anytime she has a new mix coming up, she's like, listen to this. Do you think it sounds great? I think all of her stuff is great, so she gets the same answer. But but I won't forget there was a mix that she made specifically for, or she dedicated it to me, which is, if you haven't looked at her channel, it's the Lily Lo-Fi remix. She made that song specifically for me, which I was just like, whoa, this is like insane to think about. But there's certain motifs in there that I would understand, but other people wouldn't. But yeah, you guys should give it a listen if you haven't. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you check that out along with all of Glitch's other very popular remixes. It's how very surreal for you to have gone from essentially working 3 jobs, or well, I mean, it was only 2 at once, I guess, with the working in the Disney store and then working at the hospital and also streaming all alongside for 7 years, to then move across the country and just take the plunge, see how it goes, and fortunately it all works out for the best. It's a really, really what a turbulent time it was for you, but sort of turbulent in what ended up being the best possible way. And let's go from there to the 4th Pokemon on your dream team. So who's going to join Electrode and Apom and Spoink?
My 20s were very chaotic. So the 4th Pokemon that I'm going to choose is Sinistea, which is specifically the shiny Sinistea.
Okay.
And even more specifically, the authentic form of shiny Sinistea. When I was doing content creation and stuff like that, that was the shiny Pokemon that got me partner. It was a pretty long hunt. I would probably say a month, but I got off very lucky. Shiny authentic Sinistea is a 1% encounter in the Crown Tundra in Sword and Shield. And I don't know, that Pokemon just solidified a moment in my life where I hit partner and I was like, wow, I can actually do this. I can actually make content and stuff like that. So that Pokemon is like, it's just paramount to just who I am as a creator and what I do, and that excitement that I felt when I finally caught it and stuff. I made a video on it, of course, as well. That Pokemon just means a lot to me. So yeah.
And as someone from Great Britain, the fact that you chose the Cup of Tea Pokemon is, again, as I said to you before we started recording, if there were bonus points available for guests on the show, then that would earn you.
I'm doing great.
Yeah, before we started recording, V was complimenting Kingdra, and that always goes down well in my books. Anyway, so yeah, it's the authentic form, and then the other form is, I think it's called the phony form. Right?
I believe so. Authentic and phony. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's a 1% chance to run into authentic.
Correct.
Versus phony. Sure. Okay.
And I found the shiny one of it, which is
exactly
already, like,
and
ridiculous.
So the shiny odds 1 in 4,096 in games from Generation 6 onwards. Yeah, the authentic one is just a little stamp on the bottom of the Pokemon, right?
Yes.
That identifies it as authentic.
What's actually really cool about it is that its idle animation when you're in battle with Sinistea is that it actually does a twirl. So you can kind of get a little peek and maybe see if it has the stamp or not, but it does this little like idle twirl when it's just like just floating there, I guess. So that would always be fun when I would encounter a Synesty, and I would be like, are you gonna turn? Are you gonna, but sometimes the camera doesn't favor it and stuff like that. It's a whole thing, but very whimsical or very witty Pokemon, but very, very close to my heart for sure.
It's like the paparazzi while Synesty's on the catwalk. Give us a twirl. Let me try and get the...
And yeah, it's like, you can't see this stamp. It's like... It's so great. I love that Pokemon so much. It's actually, Synesty is actually in Pokemon Horizons, which I saw an episode of it recently. So yeah, I was very happy about that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you were saying, I mean, a month to find that Pokemon really doesn't sound too bad in the grand scheme of things, given the odds. So that must be another reason why it holds such a special place for you. And let's go on from there to, you moved across the country for love, but then paving the way for a love of traveling in general and experiencing different cultures.
Yes. So because we have now settled in and lived together and stuff, we now live in Texas. So we moved out of California after the pandemic. Rent is a little too high over there, in my opinion. So we moved to Texas, but from there, I guess my love of traveling literally started during London Worlds, which was probably my first big trip with Pokemon in general. And I was so emotional. I was teary-eyed, all that stuff. Like, this is like, I'm in another country to do content on Pokemon and stuff. Like, this is incredible. This is like, I can't believe this is my life kind of situation. And then from there, like, I've been all over. I've been to Japan. I've been to Mexico for Pokemon Go Safari Zone. I've been to Hawaii now. I go to like different states in the United States for regionals and internationals and stuff. So like, I've never been to New Orleans, and I was able to go there and try their amazing food. And obviously I'm born and raised in New York, so like that's another big city that not a lot of people get to visit when you think about it, like especially overseas and stuff like that. That's probably one of the big places people like to visit, but I know it like the back of my hand at this point. And then actually in July I went on a family trip, super unrelated to Pokemon at all, but we took a cruise ship around the Caribbean Sea. So it was a lot of like Barbados and St. Lucia and like all these very, very beautiful islands. And I'm just like experiencing all of these different cultures, these different people, even going to London and trying beans for the first time for breakfast. That was like, what? Like, this is, compared to what I'm normally used to. That's just, it's so, but I like talking to people and like learning about, why do you eat baked beans? Or like, why is it always rainy in London? And like all that kind of stuff. I'm just using that as an example, but like I do that for any place that I go. So like when I went to Hawaii, we went to the Big Island before the whole Pokemon Worlds festivities in Honolulu. And that Big Island trip, it was so beautiful seeing all the nature, learning about volcanoes, and going up to the summit of a mountain to see the night sky without any like light pollution and things like that. It was beautiful. Everywhere can be beautiful when you really like, if you really look around and stuff. I think Japan is probably one of the most beautiful places ever. And I've been there twice. Yeah, I've been there twice already, and I'm kind of shooting for a third time. But gosh, my love of traveling, and it's literally because I'm just really passionate about Pokemon. Just an insane, like, not a lot of people have that opportunity. So I'm very thankful. And now I just feel like my brain has just expanded. In New York, it's a very big city, but in my opinion, a pretty small mindset. There are a lot of cultures, but everyone kind of like thinks the same. There's a certain mentality when walking around New York City. But then when you go to like other places, it's not always like that. Like everyone drives everywhere, right? That was a very big culture shift for me. Everyone drives versus like taking the public transportation and stuff like that. Though some people do have public transportation, but like it was just like, what do you mean you have to drive to go to the grocery store or something like that? I could just take the train there. crazy stuff. But anyway, I digress with that. But yeah, I'm very thankful, and I still have more places to go and a lot of things to learn. But I'm happy that I just feel like I've learned so much from all the people that I've met and the places I've been.
That passion for traveling, I mean, as you say, the way it expands your horizons, it's so fantastic that Pokemon's given you the opportunity to do that. And yeah, I would like to say for the record that it doesn't rain all the time in London. Okay, not all the time.
Sorry.
Sometimes for sure. In fact, around, because the Europe International Championships tends to be held in London. Not always, but sometimes. We do tend to have pretty poor weather around then, which is a real shame. I always hope, I cross my fingers every year. And even for the World Championships in London, I remember we had just had a heat wave. And I was like, oh, this is great. Everyone's going to come over to London and see, oh, it doesn't rain all the time. Actually, it can get pretty warm. And then the heat wave ended, and it started raining. It's just so, it's the timing is just so unfortunate, you know. And I also can confirm from my perspective, I get how beans might be seen as weird to have for breakfast, but when I see, you know, so many sweet things for breakfast in America, that's you know, to the British mindset and maybe European general mindset, just doesn't sit quite right. But yeah, there you go. It's just the differences. Differences
also
between
portions.
The
that's a whole other. That's a whole other thing. Like a large Coke in America is probably like a small, or I'm sorry, or is like a triple extra large in in Japan or something. It's crazy stuff. So yeah. Do you like beans?
I like beans.
Okay, great.
I mean, it sounds like you don't.
Well, I tried it, and that's what matters.
Yeah, okay. Right, fair enough. Yeah, I think so many things we take for granted because we just, you know, grow up eating something and so we're used to that taste. But it may well sit strangely with other people. And yeah, as you say, the amount of cultures that you have experienced at this point, and watching the night sky in Hawaii without any light pollution, it's... and it all in such a short span of time, really. I mean, London World Championships were only 2 years ago, so...
I know, and I feel like I've done so much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying it, but also make sure you're getting enough rest, V. Make sure you're taking care of yourself.
This is actually a good point, because after Hawaii, for me... Or actually, we went to PAX West, which was in Seattle, Washington, and now that we're back, literally for all of fall and hopefully all of winter, we are not going anywhere. I am sat in this office... until 2025 at least. So this is great. So I will be resting.
Very pleased to hear that, especially in the cozy months, you know, as things turn a bit colder. I'm glad that you will be chilling out a little bit. And now let's swoop over from there onto the fifth Pokemon who's going to join your team. So who will be alongside Electrode, Aipom, Spoink, and Sinistea? My
fifth Pokemon is we're actually going back to Gen 1 for this one. It's actually Wartortle, which another middle stage. You know, I love me my Torracat, but Wartortle specifically has a very warm place in my heart. Very, very cool Pokemon. I think it's peak. I'm gonna have the controversial opinion and say that Wartortle is more aesthetically pleasing than Blastoise, though I do love my Blastoise. I love Gigantamax Blastoise specifically. But yeah, Wartortle is just... actually, the sitting cutie for Wartortle is what I bring a lot to my travels. You know, anytime I like take a picture somewhere, you know, I just have the Wartortle plush just like around and stuff. So Wartortle is going to be traveling with me for a lot of these trips. First big trip was Hawaii, but beyond, that Wartortle plush is going to be with me the whole time. But back in Pokemon Stadium, I think of using Wartortle a lot, just because I just think he looked so cool. Like, again, I just love those, like, I don't know. It's something that I can't explain. Like, I can't understand your Kingdra love, right? Like, because I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing to me. I think it's great. I love it in the anime, but you know, I just don't get it. It's like my love for Wartortle, like, you just have to get it, and I hope people do. Like, Wartortle's very, very cool. He got fangs. He's like wings for ears. The big fluffy tail. Probably great to hug. Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah. So Wartortle's my fifth.
I'm glad that we've got a lot of love coming out for the middle stages. I think all too often as I've said before on the show, we see the middle stage as just a stop that we're passing through to get to the final destination. But hey, it should be celebrated as potentially an end in itself, those middle stages. And I agree, Wartortle is a fantastic middle stage Pokemon. I could spend the rest of the episode just converting you to the Kingdra love, but I won't. I will.
The Kingdra Society.
Exactly. So you said that you started playing Pokemon in Generation 1.
Yes.
Was Squirtle the first partner Pokemon you chose?
So that's actually an interesting point. I'm 5. Okay, don't judge me. It's a whole thing. But when I was 5, I picked Charmander a lot because I thought that was what you were supposed to do. I had Pokemon Red. Here's Charizard. I'm like, okay, I have to pick Charmander and whatever. Obviously, I didn't have the greatest time against Brock. So because of that, I switched to Squirtle. Ended up really loving it. It was carrying me through my whole playthrough. And then it evolved into Wartortle, which I was just like, oh, this is it. Like, this is, we can't get better than this. Like, come on, people. I'm 5, okay? I'm like, we can't get better than this guy right here. But what's interesting is that during my playthrough, Wartortle evolves again. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, what is happening? And have you ever seen the Gen 1 sprite for Blastoise?
Oh, yeah.
For a 5 or 6-year-old, that's terrifying. Like, I was like, what is that? I ended up actually resetting my game. I hit new game because I was just so like distraught. So yeah, Wartortle is just my guy.
I can see how when you're that young, it's a pretty scary sprite. It's sort of it's got its chest puffed out and it's sort of looking down on you with kind of a menacing
I thought Weezing was scary.
It looks powerful, but certainly, for someone that young, I can see how that would be a little bit frightening. But don't you worry, my first partner of choice in Kanto is Squirtle, so no, I'm definitely familiar with that entire line of sprites. And you're not the first person to say, well, I have Pokemon Red, therefore I have to choose Charmander, right? Gabby Snyder, when I spoke to her in our episode, was of the same opinion. And we were talking about, I wonder what you thought would have happened if you chose one of the others, like you just game over and you have to start again. I don't know.
Yep.
But do check out our chat if you haven't already. But Wartortle joins the team, and before we round it out, before we discover the final Pokemon on your dream team, let's talk about right now, the friends you've made and being more yourself.
Oh gosh, yeah. So living under a pretty conservative household, I was always told not to, like, I guess, I don't know, just keep to yourself, like stick to the plan, right? Stick to the plan. You have to go to school, you have to get your degree, you gotta get a job, and then you stay in that job forever. This is it. This is what you're striving for and whatever. Now here's like, we were living in the age where this internet stuff, this is foreign. What do you mean you're gonna have a job doing this? What is that? Even now to this day, I think my father doesn't really understand it that much. He understands that I make money off of it, so I guess that's what's important. But I guess thanks to the people that I've met from my travels and stuff like that, like I have literal friends from other countries, even Japanese friends that, like, they don't speak a whole lot of English, but they try, just to like converse with me and stuff like that, and like talk about, just their lives in general and things. And I think it's helped me, I guess, to be more myself, I guess, in the sense of I'm trying to break out of my shell a lot more. Like, I try my best to display my authentic self, but even then, to this day, I still don't think it's enough. Like, I know that like, I don't know, I can be weird sometimes, right? Like, sometimes I could be very passionate about, like, maybe an anime that I really enjoy, or like, I can talk for hours about Wartortle, but I don't think people want to hear that, so I kind of like keep it reserved, and I don't need to go off the rails. But sometimes I need to teach myself that it's okay to be passionate, because that's how I got here in the first place, so I think that's kind of where I am. I'm still working on content and where I'm supposed to be. I'm enjoying editing a lot, so that's pretty cool. So it's like, a part of me is like, maybe I just don't do content creation, maybe I just stick to editing. So I'm still trying to find my path. But with the friends and the friendships that I've made over the years, I think, I'm learning to be more of myself. And I'm still learning. Again, I just recently started traveling, so I'm still trying to get there, but hopefully this is the right path I'm taking. I guess that's it. Yeah.
Certainly seems to be the right path that you're taking. You are
I hope
thriving.
so.
And it's, I think, to be honest, it's always going to be an ever-sliding scale for all of us. We're just discovering as we go along. We might enjoy doing something for a long, long time and then realize, you know what, it's time for something different and explore other avenues. So, you know, I think it's always important to have that zoomed-out perspective and think, this is good for now, and that's fine for now. And we'll see how things go. I mean, I'm someone who would happily. Well, hey, I'm glad you think so. I'm someone who would happily listen to you talk about Waterloo for hours, but I think that's kind of the barometer for gauging, you know, who are my people here, right? You obviously you need a balance of people in your life, but the people who who will help you thrive will be the people who connect with you on that sort of level. It feels like a very exciting time for you. I
definitely feel like I'm, I guess, reborn, if that's a sense. I literally had to relearn like my entire structure. I've lived in New York City my whole life, and I had a very specific mindset, kind of ignorant mindset. You know, like this is how it is, and like that's it. But like as I'm exploring and traveling, I'm like, no, it's actually not all black and white. There's a lot more color to this world and to this job that I'm doing and the people that I meet and stuff like that. And I'm just like, it's not all like this is how it is and that's it. And sometimes I struggle to talk to my parents about that because they're not well traveled as much as I am, which is crazy because they've lived a lot longer than I have and I feel more well traveled than they are. But it's just, you know, and I think about like their old traditions, they're very old fashioned and, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's like I have to break out of that old fashioned mentality. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely a learning curve, I guess I should say. Yeah.
I'm sure they too feel that they're on a learning curve sort of vicariously through you, the things that you're experiencing and enjoying everything that the world has to offer through you. And again, it's testament to the traveling that Pokemon has enabled for you, that you feel you're better traveled than your parents are. There are events worldwide throughout the year of varying scales that people can attend, and it's, you know, Pokemon is one thing, but really it's the community that we get to be a part of, and the community is what makes the scene thrive. So couldn't be a better segue into asking now what the final Pokemon is that's going to be joining your dream team. My
final Pokemon is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Full stop. And it is Fuecoco. Fuecoco is quite literally my favorite all-time Pokemon, which I told you before, Apom was on a pedestal for years, probably over a decade. And when I saw that little guy, I would probably say over 10 plushies of Fuecoco at this point. I have the Fuecoco statue from Yokohama Worlds. He is quite literally, he looks like he doesn't have a thought. And as someone who overthinks, that's very refreshing. And I think I need a Pokemon like that, like by my side. It's just like, everything's going to be okay. You know, everything's going to be fine. Like he just gives off this silly smile. And it's just like, I don't know. It makes my days better. I love that Pokemon. And I don't think any Pokemon's going to dethrone that anytime soon. So, yeah, that's my sixth.
That's such a brilliant way to look at things. The Pokemon that complements you, you know, as you say, just need to channel more Fuecoco energy, be more Fuecoco. And I think, I wonder how true that is for other people. Their favorite Pokemon is something that represents something they aspire to, or an energy that they feel they need to channel more. I gotta say, V, I thought that this Pokemon was coming out at some point, so just for you, I do have here
Yay!
my Fuecoco plush, just to welcome
you. Thank you.
I help you feel welcome on the show.
I love your Fuecoco. Oh my gosh. I think I have that exact same one somewhere. It's somewhere, but that's great. No. Oh, thank you.
Very
that
nice.
made me happy.
No, of course. No, he's delighted to be here. As always, he's delighted about everything.
Everything.
And now, what he wants to be delighted by, as do we all, V, is going through your complete dream team. So, your team is Electrode, Apom, Spoink, Sinisty, Wartortle, and Fuecoco. So, what's really interesting about that is often guests will have a couple of dual-type Pokemon. But for you, they're all single-type, and they're all different types. We've got Electric, we've got Normal, we've got Psychic, Ghost, Water, and Fire. Really interesting stuff. But now I want to ask you, if you could choose one of these to be your partner Pokemon, I think we know where this is going. Who would it be?
Guys, it's Sinisty. No, sorry. No, it's definitely Fuecoco for sure. Like, I think he's just... I mean, in case you didn't know about this, if you haven't seen my Pokemon Scarlet playthrough, I did not evolve my Fuecoco at all. I had these massive... I had Titan in my team, Espathra, these big Garganacl, these big Pokemon, and then little Fuecoco with me, like the whole ride. Fuecoco was the one that defeated Gresha in my playthrough, despite it being confused from a hurricane, which is crazy. But it's just been by my side, and it's level 100, and it is still that little Fuecoco. I don't think I will ever evolve it ever, and hopefully I can bring it up to future generations. But yeah, it's left an impression, I guess I will say.
I hope you're bringing it up through future generations too, and this little guy is delighted to hear that. Fuecoco is your partner Pokemon, of course. Well, I think it's very fitting, and it's so interesting as well that it's one of the more recent Pokemon that is your partner Pokemon. But again, as you were saying, sometimes Pokemon just speak to us in, and we don't know when that will be. It could happen at any time that a new Pokemon suddenly dethrones what was previously our favourite Pokemon. So fantastic. And now a slightly different kind of question for you, V.
Okay.
If you were a Pokemon, what do you think you would be?
So, I'm going to keep it real. I didn't really have that much thought into this one. If I were to be a Pokemon, I am going to go for my cop-out answer. And this is literally because merch has come out of it recently. But... not what I would, because you mentioned specifically, it's not the Pokemon I want to be, it's what I would be realistically, and I think it's Porygon. Which is so funny because as at the time we're recording this, they revealed a life-sized Porygon plush, and I'm just like, yeah, honestly, internet gremlin when you think about it, which is kind of what I am. Just trying to break out of its shell, kind of had a specific mindset, but as it evolves, it changes and grows and stuff like that. But all Pokemon do, I suppose. That is my cop-out answer, if you want me to be honest. People are going to be like, Porygon, that is so weird, V. What is going on? But I don't know. I just looked at it last night, and I was just like, it made sense.
I think based on everything you've told us, actually Porygon does make a lot of sense, especially what you were saying at the end there about the ever-evolving, ever-sliding scale that you feel you have of discovering what you want to do and the potential that Porygon represents. That makes a lot of sense. And interestingly, you're not the first Pokemon to choose Porygon as the Pokemon they think they would be. I won't give any spoilers as to who else does, but interestingly, for entirely different reasons, you have gone for Porygon. So... this little guy, delighted to hear it. I'm giving the impression in this episode that I just have every single Pokemon plush around me just to pick up.
You even have Snom back there, which that is an insider Pokemon for me and my community. Like, the Snom is very important to the lore of V.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. I'm a big Frostmoth fan, so...
oh, nice.
Yeah. But just to confirm, I don't have every single Pokemon plush. It just so happens that the Pokemon you've mentioned, I've got a couple around me. Fantastic. Well, Porygon, do you agree that V would be a Porygon? Let us know in the comments. V especially would be fascinated to hear. as would I. And speaking of you all, it's time for questions from you all. I posted online, as I always do, for questions from the community for Agent V, and thank you for your submissions. I apologise as ever if I mispronounce any of your names or handles. So, to kick things off here, Zibski says, hey V,
Zibski.
long-time fan. If you could design your own Pokemon, what would it look like, and what typing would it have?
Oh gosh, if I were to design a Pokemon, it's funny because back in Gen 7, what I wanted or since Gen 7, or before Gen 7 came out, what I wanted for a very long time was a toucan Pokemon. Toucan was my favorite bird, or is my favorite bird. It's so cute. And so when Toucan came, oh, forget it. It was like, that was incredible. And then after that, I was like, okay, I got my toucan. What do I want next? Oh, I want a dolphin. That would be cool if there was a dolphin Pokemon. And then Finizen came out, and I was just like, okay, they got that. So I'm going to be controversial here. I would love another kangaroo. I want another kangaroo. Like, there has to be other variations. Maybe. I feel like you could do so much with it, but maybe even a pre-evolution. I'll take a pre-evolution, maybe with a little baby or something like that. I don't know. But it would be cool to have another type of like kangaroo, maybe a fighting type. If you look at just history with like, I think of Tekken, if you guys know about the Tekken fighting games, there's a character that's literally a kangaroo with boxing gloves. And I think that's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, again, I think it's very cop-out, but I think I would like another kangaroo-esque Pokemon. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, because Kangaskhan represents one aspect of a kangaroo, but it's not so agile as we know kangaroos to be. So yeah, it would be interesting to see another kangaroo Pokemon. I mean, the mind boggles with even though we have more than 1,000 Pokemon now, there are still endless possibilities for future Pokemon. But that's a really good answer. I like that. And thank you for that question, Zivski. Yeah. Now a question from PKMN Trainer M15. A fond member of my Discord community, Chazingdra Chocolate Factory. Thank you so much for submitting a question for the show. I remember when you were interviewed at one of the regionals, and it got me thinking, do you have plans to compete in Scarlet and Violet? Perhaps with a team of Ribbon Masters or Ribbon-filled Pokemon?
Oh my gosh. First of all, shout out to you. That's awesome. I am a big fan of Pokemon with ribbons or Pokemon with marks, which was a thing introduced in Sword and Shield, just like give it that extra like personality and flair and stuff. I actually have experience with VGC. I did compete back in, oh my gosh, I think my first local was in New York back in like 2015 when Mega Pokemon were a thing. And I used a Trick Room Mega Camerupt team, which was very strange, but I remember breeding it all myself. Like I worked really hard on it, but I'm not the greatest battler, if you want me to be honest. There, to me, like how you said, there's over 1,000 Pokemon. There's only so many. Like, I'm really bad with type matchups. Sometimes I don't know resistances of like poison specifically. Anytime I see poison, I like freak out. I'm like, oh no, what is this? And I'm just, it's things like that. And then with terrestrialization now being a thing, it's even more confusing. I am very much a VGC watcher. I love watching the competitions and stuff like that. I would like to. The new regulation is out with no legendaries, which is probably like my favorite. Those are my favorite formats when there's no legendary Pokemon. I would like to. I really like Golden Go. Golden Go is another Pokemon that gives off a lot of confidence, and like he's just very, very cool guy. So I think it would be cool to use a Pokemon like that. And people have told me that Golden Go is very, very good. So maybe, I always say the maybe, but I also think about the exhaustion that comes to actually competing. Like by round 4, you're just hungry, you're tired. So shout out to the competitors that actually like go throughout the whole day and they're on positive records. If you want me to be honest, could not be me, but maybe it could be. I don't know. Maybe I would do it for fun, I guess I would say, but I don't think I would take it seriously, if that makes sense. Just go at it, with like a meme team, as they say, and then just see what happens. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as Karen of the Johto Elite Force says, truly skilled trainers will try and win with their favourites, and that's certainly a very fun way to play VGC. And as you say, yeah, they are long days of competition. You need a lot of mental resilience as well as being able to take breaks where you can. It's the kind of thing that only comes from attending a few tournaments. I think that you build up the skill set to be able to go through it multiple times. And you said earlier you're a fan of marked Pokemon as well, V. Well, let me tell you what happened to me last night. I was doing my first ever stream of my Teal Mask Shiny Quest playthrough, right?
Ooh,
and
okay.
I'm just going for random shinies. I don't have any targets in mind. Within half an hour of the stream, I find a shiny Yanma.
Okay, nice.
And it has the rare mark. 1 in 1,000. Now, I do have the shiny charm on that Pokemon Violet game. But that is still a 1 in 20,000 chance. I looked it up. And I love Yanma as well. So, I mean, just
wow.
over the moon. Over the moon. What first partner in
Are you gonna evolve it?
I already have. Because it's currently the only Pokemon on my team. I thought I do need a bit of power.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pokemon. But I love both Yanma and its evolution, Yanmega. But marks are such an exciting thing to find on a Pokemon. If you're not familiar, you have a random chance of finding a Pokemon that has a title attached to it, let's say. So, for example, my Yanmega, which is nicknamed Houdini, is Houdini the Recluse, because it's that rare. And you might have so-and-so the Sleepy, or the Hungry, or no, it's the Peckish, actually. Things like that. And it just adds a little bit more flavour, a little bit more individuality to the Pokemon you find.
You have one-upped me in shinies, because I do not have a rare-marked shiny Yanma. Or a rare-marked shiny. Let's just go there. Yeah. So you one-upped me there.
There you go. I mean, it all comes down to chance, but I'm sure one day, V, you will find that rare mark. It's the first rare mark I've ever found, for sure.
That's awesome.
Anyway, thank you so much for those questions there for V. If you'd like to submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, you can keep an eye on my socials, on X specifically, at Chazingdra. So then, V, we've heard a lot about you up to now. What I want to know now is, what's next for you?
Oh, gosh. I mean, just doing what I'm doing, I guess. I'm not traveling a lot more until 2025. So I am really trying to focus back on streaming because of all of my traveling, I didn't get to stream as much. But yeah, I'm hoping that me streaming a lot more will just get my name more out there, trying to grow the YouTube channel, doing all that regular stuff. Just trying to get back into the swing of things in terms of like actual posting content versus just I'm over here, I'm in this country. So, which is very great for Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, I think it's just I'm going to rest at home and work on content. That's what's next.
Yeah, especially over the winter months, just hunker down and do what you can. And I think there can be, especially after all the traveling you've done, it must be a bit of a relief actually to have a good extended amount of time at home now just to focus on that. And finally, V, looking back from now as a fantastic Pokemon content creator, someone who's still trying to find exactly the kind of thing they want to do, all the way back to the V who, for example, on their birthday got into the car and there was a gift bag with Pokemon Emerald and the trainer's guide waiting for them. What advice would you give to that younger you?
Oh God, what advice would I give to younger me? Oof. There's a lot I could say. There is so much I could say. I would say be yourself because that's something that I really struggle with to this day. Literally be yourself. You weren't the most popular kid in school, but look at where you are now because of the things that you were nerding out about back then, be more yourself, So yeah, I think that's what I would say. Keep it simple.
That's really good advice, and I think it also speaks to how it feels like the world has changed in that regard. I think when people our sort of age back at school, there wasn't this facility to be able to make a career out of a very, very specific thing that you are passionate about. And so it's brilliant that in this day and age we can lean more into those sort of things and get fulfillment out of them. So fantastic. Thank you so much for that answer, V. And the chat does not end there, because we will now be getting into Agent V's Rapidash round. Bonus questions, quickfire questions that V has not prepared for. Things like Team Magma or Team Aqua. What's the favourite quest that V has done? Questions like that. If you want to enjoy that, then you can head over to my Patreon, where you can support me as a creator. That link will be in the description below. Fundamentally, I really appreciate the fact that you've listened to this episode, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to enjoy V's Rapidash round, then you can head over there as well. And V, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been fantastic to talk to you and get a little bit of your wisdom. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really, really fun.
I'm really pleased.
This is great.
I'm really pleased. And I'm aware as well that, it's late afternoon where I am right now, but morning for you. And so you were up pretty early to record with me, so I'm very grateful for you doing that.
And I would do it again.
Hey, well, there you go. How are you fixed tomorrow? I'm joking. So, V, if people want to keep up with you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, AjentVee, not spelled, the agent not spelled correctly. AjentVee everywhere on Twitter or X, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Threads. Yeah, just basically anywhere that you can think of. If you type my name, it's there. So yeah, heck yeah.
Make sure you go and check out.
Thank you so much.
No, of course. Make sure you go and check out Agent V's fantastic socials. And if you've enjoyed the show, here we go again. Please do like and subscribe. It really is very, very helpful to all of us creators, as V can attest to. And thank you for doing the airplane demonstration of the liking and subscribing there, V.
It's down here.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know what you thought of V's Pokemon picks. V's given us so much to think about. It would be fantastic to know what you think about what V has shared with us. And also on the channel, I vlog the events that I cast as a caster with Pokemon traveling the world, so do go and check that out if that sounds like the sort of thing you're interested in. I stream Pokemon games competitive as well as casual. I mentioned my Teal Mask Quest earlier. Also play VGC and various other challenge runs, shiny hunting. If you're a fan of everything that Pokemon video games have to offer, then it's the place for you. I also make silly comedy skits to do with Pokemon, all sorts of things going on. And if you want to follow me beyond YouTube, I am on X, Instagram, TikTok. @Chazingdra is the handle that you need. If you want to get in touch, feedback on the show, suggestions for guests, and again, I want to showcase as broad a range of guests as possible, chazingdra@gmail.com is the email address. And if you want to hop into my Discord community I mentioned earlier as well, Chazingdra's Chocolate Factory, join the merry folk, come be merry with us, and again, share our love for the Pokemon video games. That will be linked below as well. Episodes of Chazingdra Chats drop every Wednesday. And with that, V, it's time to get into your Rapidash round. So if you're not joining us over on Patreon for that, then it's goodbye from V.
Bye, y'all.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you so much for joining us on Chazingdra Chat. See you next time for another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. So then, V, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
Oh, I'm pumped. Let's do it.
Yeah? Okay. Well, let's start with the ones that